it's Renee and Gil, and we're in a different environment, huh? Hey everyone, we are so glad you are here with us. It is our Saturday afternoon live. Babe, could you get that light on the front right there? Let's get some more lights in here, y'all, right? Hello, thank you so much for joining us. Let me put my glasses on so I can see. Hello there, welcome to our live. Hi, Seth. Oh my gosh, hi, Seth. How are you? Thanks for joining us. We are so glad you guys are with us. Hello to all of our Rich Relationship Refuge community. Today is Saturday and it's our time together. Kiss me, kiss me. Mwah. Happy Saturday. We're glad to be here with you guys today. We are excited about today's time together. Our episode today.
And I'm Gil from the Rich Relationship
Oh,
Refuge.
hi, my name's Renee.
And Gil from the Rich Relationship Refuge.
We are so glad to be with you guys today. If we feel a little like out of breath, it's because we probably are. But we're excited about today's live. We hope you guys are excited to be here with us.
As you can tell, Renee was just mentioning already about we're in a different location today because we were doing some ministry earlier this morning with an awesome group of people that we're doing at our local church. And if you're not in a local church, we hope you get in a local church and get active and get busy, because the Lord needs you to do what you do for other people.
Yes. Your marriage does not just belong to you. Your marriage is a gift that God has entrusted into your care for you to share with the world. So for those of you who are used to being with us every Saturday, no, we're not at home in the kitchen. And for those of you who've been with us for a long time, you guys will recognize we are inside of Richie. And we have not been inside of Richie
for a little while.
Since last year.
For a little while, yeah.
Yeah, we are actually on location at Community Bible Church.
Yes.
So like you were saying, if you don't have a church, please find a place where you can go, grow, connect, serve, and give. That is what God has called for us to do. But today, our episode...
We were talking, y'all know, for the last couple of weeks, we've been just basically talking about marital code to oneness and the things that we do as individuals and getting together.
The book, where's the book? Where's the book?
It's in my briefcase.
You got to get it. Get the book. You got to show them the book.
Well, you can start talking about what we talked about.
Okay, so today's episode, right now we're working with our couples, and we're working from the book, Our Marital Code to Oneness. And we've already gone over working in your marriage, working on your marriage. And last week we talked about what is the foundation. Are you building your life on love or fear? And so from this book, The Marital Code to Oneness, we are working on today. We're working on, so we talked about the foundation,
and y'all,
which is...
And we got some feedback. It seemed like some people like the acronyms and things like that, but we gave you guys code last week: closed, obstinate, lazy, and dishonest.
Yes.
But this week,
we talked about being hot, honest, open, and transparent.
And so Renee found, we were talking about what we were going to do for this episode. And so Renee found one of the topics that we talked about in our book. Yeah, but another acronym. So we're going to give you another one this week.
Yes.
We're going to talk about it.
If you notice it in the description. So we talked about the foundations, which is, are you building your life on love or fear? So now we're talking about, because we talked about how a marriage is like building a house. Mm-hmm. And so you have the foundation. Well, guess what? After you have the foundation, it has to be framed. And so we're talking about the framework. And for us, we believe that it's a tie. So it ties it together. And the things that tie a marriage together are trust, identity, and empathy. So we want to make sure that because I asked in the comments, so what's tying your relationship together? What are the things that you're using to tie your relationship together? For us, after years of being married and being believers and serving in marriage ministry, we realized that these things right here, trust, identity, and empathy, will give you a framework that will keep you tied together.
So we got to actually go to a story.
Yes.
I remember when we first got married.
Hi, thanks for joining us.
I remember we first got married, excuse me, and I remember working for a friend. This is all the way back in high school. Well, no, I'll take that back. We weren't married. We were still just boyfriend, girlfriend. All the way back in high school. Y'all see the look on her face, right?
Oh, I know
All
where
the
he
way back in
going.
high school, I had a friend who bought a gas station, and this is leading into trust, why it is so important. So he bought a gas station, and while he was in high school, probably a millionaire now, but that's a whole nother
If
conversation.
he
But
stuck with it.
yeah, but he asked me to come and help him work in his gas station while he found other employees. So Renee and I were supposed to do something that day, and I ended up at the gas station working a little bit longer than I was supposed to. And this is all pre-cell phone. So we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have anything. And I wasn't about to pull over to the side of the road and call on the payphone and tell her I'm going to be a little bit late. I didn't think it was that big of a deal.
There was a phone in the place, wasn't it?
I didn't think it was that big of a deal. I didn't think about that until after I had departed, right? So I left his location on my way to go see Renee. And by the time I got there, guess what, y'all? Somebody was salty.
I was on fire. I was livid. We were not saved. I didn't know Jesus. Like I told y'all before, I grew up in a house with very strong, dominant, cussing women.
Mm-hmm.
I digress.
So she was hot. And needless
No,
to
I was angry.
Yeah,
I wasn't hot.
Yeah, she was mad. So, but why were you mad?
I was mad because the whole time that Gil and I dated, if Gil said he was going to be there at 1 o'clock, Gil was there at 12:55.
Mm-hmm.
If Gil said we were going, Gil always kept his word. He never lied to me. He did what he was supposed to do. He didn't have any behaviors when we were together that made me feel like I couldn't trust him.
Right.
And so I was so upset because this was the first time he didn't keep his word, and it made me question our relationship.
So we appreciate you joining us.
Thank
As
you
if
so
you just
much
jumped
for
in during story
joining.
time, I'm still going to talk about it. And you're right, insecurity,
It's
Deidre.
not-
Yes, it's not.
But we were 21.
So we were young. So insecurity is definitely not something
not.
that you want to live your life upon. We talked about that last week, and we were talking about fear.
Yes.
But she was mad. But I think when it came to building on our relationship, trust has to be the foundation, is where I'm going at. Because I think I had already laid the groundwork because we had already been dating, that she knew, even though she was mad at me, she wasn't mad at me because she thought I was out doing something I wasn't supposed to be doing with another person, another woman. She was mad at me because I was late.
He didn't keep his word.
So, but the trust that I had built upon our relationship over time was something that we talked about this before in some of the other episodes, I could make a withdrawal from her bank because I had made enough deposits in trustworthiness in her. Even though she was mad about me being late, I had built enough equity, I had built enough deposits that I could make a withdrawal in this particular situation because I was trustworthy.
Yes, but let me tell you about the human nature and the downside of being young. Although he had made all these deposits and he had never given me any reason not to trust him or not to believe him, when you get into your emotions and you're letting other people feed information that feeds that narrative, you can make a really bad decision. Fortunately for Gil, my godmother loved him. And while I was mad and I was upset and I'm like putting all of his stuff in the box and I'm going to break up with him. And she said, "You going to break up with him because of one time? Because he didn't call you?" And she was like, "That does not make any sense." So I hope that when you're at the height of your emotion and when you're in your feelings, that you have someone who is wise enough to bring you back to life and bring you back to reality so that you can really look at all of the records and not just one. Like we talk about red flags, one incident is not a red flag.
Absolutely. So when we talk about trust, we're actually saying, if you're just joining us, we're talking about T.I.E.
Trust, identity, and empathy.
In this week episode of the Rich Relationship at our noontime session, and we're basically piggybacking off of the marital code to one is some of the things that we had already talked about. So we are just telling you about building trust. So the next one, that when we think about trust, when you think about trust, think about it from the aspect of, what does trust really mean? The T stands for transparency. When you talk about transparency, That's being open and clear about not only your actions and your conduct and everything that you carry out, but in your communication. We talked
Yes.
already about that.
Yes, and a part of transparency is telling someone something that they wouldn't know, even if they, telling someone something that they know is, that's good, but transparency is, I'm going to tell you things about me that you wouldn't know unless I told you.
Right.
So you want to take it a little step further than just being honest. We want you to be transparent. We want you to be vulnerable. And that's how you begin to build trust.
You know, so what we're talking about, I just see in the comment, if you're just joining us, we're talking about relationship building, the things that you need to do in your relationship.
The framework.
Whether you're married, this is focused on our married couples because we just did the series about the singles, but this is focused on our married couples, the things that you need to be constantly doing when it comes to the relationship to keep it fresh, to keep it going, to keep it renewed. So we appreciate you joining us.
Thanks from Mexico. Thanks from, I think that
Zambia. We always got international partners.
We love
appreciate
you guys. Thank you so much for
us.
being over here with us.
So we have talked about that. You have to avoid the hidden things. Just like I used that story about me being late to pick Renee up. You have to be transparent when it comes to your actions and what you're doing, because where the trust gets violated is when you're keeping secrets and when you're being very stealthy about your actions, your interactions, and your reactions to certain things about your significant other.
Yeah, and being reliable. One of the things I can say,
that's the iron trust,
that Gil has always been reliable. He's always been a person of his word. He's done what he said. His words, one of the things I wrote in my book, when your words and your actions don't line up, one of them is lying.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that our words and our actions are lining up, that we're reliable, that we're transparent. And one of the things I appreciate about it, because I was mad, I was upset, I was on 10, but Gil was so understanding. He didn't. It could have gone really bad, because let's say I'm mad, I'm upset, and then he comes in, I'm already on fire, and are you gonna throw baking soda on the fire, or are you gonna throw gas?
So how many? Come on, guys. Let's be honest. How much? If sometimes when your significant other, your wife, your girlfriend gives you some attitude, your natural response is to give it back.
Don't give it back.
That's a whole nother conversation that we'll talk about later, about focusing on symptoms and not the real root cause of what is going on. But when we talk about the reliability that you have to think about, are you reliable? Are you the person that does what they say they're going to do when they say they're going to do it?
Yeah. So what is that? Darla Lee? We've been married for 30, Deandra, we've been married 36. For 36 years. Thanks for asking.
We started dating when we were 18 and 19.
Yes, but we've known each other since we were 14.
And 15,
So when people talk about young love, our love has been young and naive and older and wise, and now our love is long and lasting. So we have known each other since we were 14, and we've been together since we were 18. And someone asked last week, have you ever cheated on each other? No, we've never cheated on each other. That's a whole nother issue, because we're talking about building a relationship, the framework, trust. And so we're talking about trust, and we're going to talk about identity, and then we'll talk about empathy. But let's understand the other one.
So we talking about the next one in us is understanding.
Yeah.
When you think about, go ahead. You were going to say something.
I was just saying, I just appreciated that. First of all, Gil is real even-tempered, which you see, like, he is like, and when someone is like that, when you're up in your emotions and in your feelings, then you need someone that's going to kind of calm you down. And a part of being understanding is understanding that I had the right to be mad, understanding that my personality is not like his,
right,
and understanding that this is someone I want to spend the rest of my life with. So therefore, understanding is not just in your head, it's a mindset and it's an approach that you have to approach the relationship with, taking those things into consideration.
You know, when you think about understanding, that kind of goes into listening and understanding, because understanding is a natural part, or it should be a natural part of what you're trying to accomplish in your relationship, not just when you have a fight and an argument, but you should be understanding toward your significant other all the time, giving them the benefit of the doubt when things go a little bit sideways, not crediting them with something that hazardous or detrimental to your relationship, but you have to look at it from the perspective of this person has my back. I'm in a relationship with them because I want to be.
Yeah.
If you don't want to be, that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother topic that you have to look at. But you have to look at it from the perspective of understanding goes along with that active listening side.
Yes.
Active listening, we talked about it before, about some of the other traits that you have to be exercising on a regular basis. Active listening is listen to understand the other
and that's
person.
what we want.
And I wanted to make a comment right here. I just seen Vince. Even if you're not married and you're not engaged or anything like that, if you're looking for a girlfriend, the things that we're talking about are definite answers to the test.
Yes.
These are things that if you start practicing them now,
right, preparing,
it is going to set you up for success a long ways down the road. Whenever that woman comes along that you're yoked up with, that is going to be of definite benefit, because it's going to be like you have years of experience, because we're sharing these 36 years plus of things that we just learned through trial and error and through others that have sown seed into us.
And training and the Bible.
Yes.
And being a good student and watching other relationships.
Yes.
One of the things that I want to share that I think is important to understand about understanding is that how many of you, when you are in a situation or in a relationship, you just want to be right?
Thanks, I think that's DeAndre. Thanks for, if you got to leave, just jump in, jump out. It's going to be recorded.
Come back in. Yeah, it's going to be recorded.
Yeah, we appreciate you, subscriber. Thanks for all the subscribers that have jumped on.
Thank you for subscribing. Thank you guys for liking and commenting. You guys have been commenting so much, and we want to make sure that we answer you and talk to you. And yes, we're in an RV.
Yes, we are in our RV. We use the RV to travel around, to talk, to engage with couples, to do different things, but also for our personal time. But yes, we were administering earlier this morning in our group session that at our local church, or teaching or facilitating. Anyway, we were working at, it was a training we were going through.
Serving.
Well, we knew we weren't going to make it back for our 12 o'clock live, so we drove the RV just so we can come out of the building and come right out to the RV and jump online with you guys, because we like to say that kind of goes into what this is talking about, the sincerity of being a person of your word and keeping your word. When we make a word to say we're going to be here 12 o'clock, we were here.
Yes, we were.
And
we love y'all.
And sometimes you got to do some things in advance to prepare and to be ready to go. Yeah, to be ready to go later. If you know you got to do something later, you have to do some preparation now.
That's being reliable.
Yes.
That's being understanding.
Yes.
And another thing that is so important about what helps to build trust is sincerity.
Yes.
Not being one person. And this is what it means to me to be sincere. In every setting.
Hey, Jesse, here's your shout out.
Thank you.
But contribute to the conversation, Jesse.
In every setting, the story that people have about you is consistent.
Yes.
When you're sincere, you don't have to say, I'm a very sincere person. Or when people say, I'm very genuine. That's the word. Everybody wants to be genuine and authentic. But sincerity is a little bit deeper than both of those, because sincerity is the story that your life tells. What is the story that your life is telling? And is it telling the same story consistently? Because when the people who know you have positive things to say about you, and the people who are strangers, then that is something that is notable. And that requires effort and energy. And one of the things me and you were talking about, self-control.
Yes.
It requires self-control. It requires you allowing the Holy Spirit and the Word of God to govern how you live your life.
Yes, absolutely. When you think about the sincerity also, this is the part that is sometimes hard for some people, and that goes back into one of the comments that just passed through, was talking about pride, is admit when you're wrong.
Yeah.
And taking responsibility for your actions.
And your part.
Just like me being late, the part that I have to take ownership for is like, yes, babe, I was late. I should have left earlier. That is on me. That is my fault. Not come in with the dukes up and defensive.
It disarmed me.
It come in with the dukes up and ready to defend my position about, give all these different reasons about why I did what I did or why I didn't do what I said I was going to do. Just own it.
Yeah.
And back in the day, we used to say, don't be a punk. Just own it. Just go ahead and say, you know what? My bad. I was wrong.
Yeah.
Please forgive me. That's the second part of that. Yes, take accountability.
Yeah.
Take accountability for your actions, because that is the ultimate of being sincere with somebody. You can, even if you've done something wrong to somebody, when you own it, that person is automatically going to be disarmed, like you were talking
It
about.
disarms you. Now, if you're a rational and reasonable person, it disarms you. And again, we were 19 years old. This was way before the internet, way before all these social media platforms. I recognized that he was sincere, that he really wanted me to, you know, accept his apology. And so guess what I did? I did.
Right.
And the thing that I love, and the thing that, if the one thing, the next one in this building a part of trust is this amazing thing that you can't buy, you don't own, you can't make more of, and it is your most valuable resource. Because somebody said in the comment, sincerity doesn't pay my bills. There's more to life than just money. And this last one that we're going to talk about is called time. The way you build trust is over time.
Not overnight? Not overnight?
No.
Okay.
No. And another way that it's not just overnight, it's also you have to give your time. So if you want me to trust you, it's going to happen over time and by you investing your time. Because the Bible says, where your treasure is, there also will your heart be. So the reason why it was easy for me to trust Gil was because we spent most of our time together. And even now, we still spend a lot of our time together. But it's impossible for you to build trust instantly with someone that you don't spend time with.
Right, right. And that can be difficult and challenging when you think about it at the time, because not only is it built overnight, it's not built overnight. It takes a time to establish that repeatable pattern of good things that you've been doing to build the trust in the relationship that is going to pay dividends to you later. So we see you coming from New York. We're going to talk about Hey from New York, but we also going to be talking about, who was that from Alaska? I think Logan.
Hi.
Logan from Alaska. We're going to be talking about the intimacy or empathy,
Yes.
which is a part of it when it comes to this relationship about building trust. So we're talking about the first thing in T.I.E.
is
with
trust. And
And
so
what-
we've kind of covered trust.
Yes.
Okay, so now we're going to go into identity. Why is identity important? I will start off with this as a woman. The reason why identity is so important, and the reason why it's a part of the framework, because again, when we're talking about building a house, you build a house first, you have to have the foundation, and so then the framework, so then identity. The reason why identity is so important, it goes back to insecurity. If I am thinking that I'm going to get married and I'm going to become a wife, and that's going to be what I identify as. I'm not going to be Renee. I'm not going to be a daughter of the king. I'm not going to be an individual. I'm just going to be a wife. Your identity has to be in something that is eternal and something that's outside of another human being. A mother, a daughter, a sister. I mean, a daughter of the king. But we have to make sure that our identity is in what we can't, that no one gave us or can take it away. And so when your identity is built on Christ, it gives you an identity that's unshakable, and it also gives you an identity that is something that you can share with someone else.
Right.
So not only do you have this value, you can then give it to somebody else. Because when we first got married, I was so insecure and jealous, and a lot of that came from the way I was raised. And those are, talking about going back and dealing with your past. Our identity has got to be based on who we are in Christ, not a job, not a position, not a size, not any of those things that we can kind of make it about.
The enemy is always looking. When I say the enemy, I'm talking about the devil, the one that actually is out to get you and to destroy you. He wants your identity to be tied up into everything but God.
Yes.
If he could get you focused on whether it's a group or an activity or a hobby or anything else that you your vocation, for us men, we tend to have our identity wrapped up into what we do and how we are building on wealth and the things that we have accumulated over time. Our identity is tied up in stuff. That is already a good setup, because as long as he can get you to focus on the stuff that you have,
Yes.
He know you won't be focused on anything else, because more than likely that identity is tied up not only in the stuff, but also tied up into the self.
Yeah.
And we talked about that last week about selfless being versus selfless versus being selfish. So when your identity is tied up in the stuff and the things and who you are other than outside of Christ alone, then you're going to be set up for, how can you really expect to have a great relationship with another person when you only can focus on yourself?
Yeah. And so I think it's important that, identity, and the reason why that's so important, because so many times, especially now in this time, it's so easy for your identity to be caught up in likes and shares and titles and things. And so when you make your identity based on your purpose, because identity that's rooted in Christ gives you purpose, it gives you value, it gives you a sense of an assignment. And so the reason why that's important, because if I have a sense of my assignment and my purpose and my value, then guess what I'm going to do with everybody else I come in contact with? I'm going to value his purpose. I'm going to value his assignment. I'm going to value who he is. And so it's kind of hard to give someone something when you don't have it. And so the reason why we're sharing all these things is because a lot of times when you first get married, you don't know. People don't talk about this kind of stuff. People don't let you know that if you don't really have a good sense of your identity, how that could affect your marriage. Why would you think it could? But it definitely can. And so it's just important that we understand. We're talking today about the framework of your relationship, which is trust, identity, and empathy. And that's what is going to bind it all together and keep it all together and keep it safe and keep it strong together.
We talked a little bit last week about when it came to the pride. Pride is the essence of who you are as an individual and who you are. There's nothing wrong with having pride in your self-esteem and who you are as an individual. But when pride starts to take control and you start thinking you're more than, especially when it comes to your partner, then you're kind of spilling over into some other areas that are going to be very damaging to your relationship in the long run. You can go through and try to think you controlling another person, but it's not going to happen.
Yeah. I think it's important. One of the things that we always say this in the comments, if you are bringing value and adding value to the community and to the people, because what we put in the comments says a lot about the condition of our heart.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we're adding value, that we're bringing to this community, because we're a community. You guys are our community, that we're adding things that are going to help and encourage one another, not to be divisive or not to be self-promoting. That's not what this is for. This is a time for us to get together so that we can have better, fulfilling, God-honoring marriages and relationships. So right now we're talking about identity. What's something else that you have that you've learned about really understanding your identity that you think has helped us as a couple?
I think being confident, when I was growing up, especially if you come through a household, my dad wasn't in the house, so I really didn't have a great example of what a man was supposed to do, especially when it came to relationships, especially when it came to Renee and how I was supposed to interact. Now, on the outside, I had all these guys, whether it was uncles, guys that I knew from the neighborhood, guys that I knew from my schools, guys that I just seen from afar. Sometimes we're going to copy what we think is what being a man was all about.
Right.
I didn't have a solid identity in who I was in Christ until later in life. And that's when I think the light came on, or my eyes was really open about how I was not only supposed to treat Renee, but how I was supposed to look at myself. When you start looking at yourself based on things that you've experienced, based on things that you were told, based on things that you think are the right way to do things, you can be setting yourself up for some real heartbreak when it comes to, especially if you're calling yourself trying to interact and come together with another person. If that other person isn't under my control, then I was starting to question who I was as an individual. Well, Lord and behold, when God opened my eyes to what relationships were really all about and who she really was, that gave me the right in the comfort level in who I was as a man to say, you know what? it's okay for me to be a certain way when it came to Renee. That means being vulnerable, being open, being transparent, all the things that we talked
Being
about last week,
scared, being
being talked
angry,
about
being,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, the emotional side of things that I had suppressed over so many years out of hurt, pain, damage, that I couldn't be who she had called me to be, who God had called me to be,
Yeah, who I needed
who I
to
could be for her.
Right.
So I think that was a big eye opening for me when my identity came to say, you know what? Who I am in Christ comes first. Once I got a clear understanding of who that was, then all the other things just kind of fell in line with Renee.
Yeah.
I started understanding who she was as an individual to where I can say, you know what? This is all right. It's okay for me to be this way with her. She gave me a safe place to go, which solidified or hardened up my identity and made me sure about who I was.
And I think a part of it is that when you have a good sense of your own identity and you see your growth areas and your strengths, and you see your strength, you see the parts about you that are great and the parts about you that need to change, and you're aware of that for yourself, because we always talk about the longest journey is the journey inward. So when I can do all those things with me, it makes it easier for me to be the same way with all the people whose life that I'm going to touch.
Right. And it's so funny that when you start thinking about my identity and how that spills over into your relationship, it is something that will make you more understanding of this person that you're in relationship with. When you know who you are, it helps the relationship, because if I'm always suspicious, or if I'm always unsure or insecure about myself, that is going to manifest in relationships, in Renee's relationships. If I have a questioning about her dedication to me, per se, then I'm going to start questioning her motives towards me. That's a telltale sign that there's something up with my identity, that I'm not sure who I am. You know, just like the person keeps putting in here about checking the phone, checking the phone, checking the phone. Well, guess what? I have Renee's passcode to her phone. I don't need to check her phone, because there has happened. We have been together for 36 plus years. There is nothing new under the sun that we haven't experienced, that we haven't gone through, that has been something that I need to question. Her history has not shown me that I have a willing or need to actually question who she is and what she says and what she does.
Yeah. And I think, unfortunately, because when people put things like that, and I say it all the time, what you put in the comments is a reflection of your heart. And I'm sorry that you have been experienced so much
Hurt.
Dishonesty and hurt that you don't trust, because not trusting other people also is a reflection of how you feel about you. One of the things my godmother told me when I was younger was, if you look for something, you're going to find it. I am not going to search for and look for things that, if I want to know what Gil is doing, I don't have to sneak and search in his phone. I can just go to him and ask him.
Right.
If I know that we're investing in each other, we're making each other the priority. One of the reasons why I know I have no need to cheat, because he meets my needs emotionally, physically, spiritually, psychologically, socially. So when your needs are met, the reason why people cheat, and we talked about this last week, people cheat because they are empty inside.
Right.
It has nothing to do with sex. It has nothing to do with other people. It has everything to do with, there's a God-sized hole inside of all of us. And if we don't do the first thing, which is to accept Christ and make him head of our life, we won't be able to enjoy any of the relation. It must be a really sad life that I have to spend my day hunting for something that I should be able to, in a very calm, mature way, articulate.
Right.
That's what we talk about, building communication and know how to communicate. I don't have to search through his phone, because I can talk to him, because God searches his heart. So I don't have to search his phone.
Right. So we appreciate all you guys hanging out with us. We joined up for this Saturday live session here with the Rich Relationship Podcast with Gil and Renee. We've been talking about T.I.E, trust, identity, empathy, and trust, identity, and empathy. So why don't we talk a little bit about empathy?
Yeah, my favorite. And the reason why this is so important because as we have worked with couples over 20 years, there are certain things that allow couples to be able to go through difficult, hard things and be able to rebound. And one of the things that I think a lot of couples, and we talk about this, we talk about being able to see past right now.
Right.
And empathy, and Gil likes when empathy is your pain in my heart. And when couples who have empathy towards one another, they are more likely to be able to go through something difficult together and overcome it. When you don't have empathy in your relationship, every little thing is a major thing.
Right.
And so the reason why this is important is because if you have empathy to tie you together, it allows you to be able to, because when we first got married, we were 21, and we always talked about adultery and cheating, and what would I do if Gil cheated on me? And my answer was I would kill him. Because I believe that in the beginning, from death do us part. I'm like, well, if he cheat on me, I'm gonna kill him.
Right.
Well, and we said that for the longest, and then I realized, oh my goodness, I gotta stop saying that because I don't want our daughter to think that I can kill him because he cheats on me. But as I read more and as I matured and as I grew, I realized that cheating is an internal issue, and so therefore, if he decides to cheat, that has nothing to do with me. But will I be able to forgive him if he cheats? And the difference between the higher your empathy, the more likely you are to forgive someone who is really repentant.
Yes.
If I catch you and then you tell me, that's not repentance. Repentance is I have no way of knowing, and you come to me and tell me about what happened without not somebody else told you to tell me. The Holy Spirit may tell you. Right. And when you have empathy, you have the ability to feel the pain that they have and understand that really, instead of being mad or upset about situations, you see it through the eyes of empathy. And empathy really is a superpower in couples. And the couples that we've seen who have gone through adultery and have gone through death and tragedy, empathy has been what has helped them to be able to resolve and to be able to rebound.
When you think about empathy from the individual perspective, sometimes you have to have gone through things in order for you to be able to exercise empathy towards someone else. You can look at, based on things that you've seen from other people, and know that how can I rightfully hold something against Renee when I know I'm going to mess up at some point and sometime in our relationship, and not expect to want her to forgive me for certain things that have happened to me. How many times have you been in a situation where you have to put yourself in the other person's shoes to say, I may not understand totally what you're going through, but I can empathize with what you're going through. That's a tough time. That's a tough season. Some people may need encouragement, and especially your significant other or your spouse. When you know that they're going through, how many of you have that person in your life that as soon as they walk in the room, if you know something is wrong, you can feel it.
Yeah.
You automatically know, whether it's good or bad, you feel it. Yeah. And sometimes you may be the source of it, and sometimes you may just be the one to be on the outside of it. And unfortunately, sometimes you're on the receiving end of it to where you have to give them some grace and some mercy to say, you know what? I know something is going on. I may not know what, but I want to be there for you if you decide you want to share with me what's going on.
So I think about it. So empathy would be the root, and then grace and mercy, all of those other. Well, actually, the root is grace, and then from grace you get empathy, you get gentleness, and so it's just important to understand. And a lot of the times when we talk about marriage takes three.
Yep.
You, your spouse, and God. You cannot have a successful, thriving, God-honoring marriage without God. So we're just talking about the principles and how to apply them, but that the root and the foundation of everything that we teach, we talk about, we live, we share, it's biblically based, and it's to help you to understand that God created marriage, so therefore He's the only one that gets to tell us how that how marriage should work.
Yes, we appreciate you guys hanging out with us. We've been going here for almost 45 minutes, or 40 minutes, I think that says. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us with the Gil and Renee podcast, the Rich Relationship Podcast with Refuge with Gil and Renee.
Yeah, and so we want to give you guys some time now. I want to answer some of the questions that we have from our community, and I want to give you guys in the audience an opportunity to ask us some questions. So the book is called Our Marital Code to Oneness, and we are talking today about T.I.E, trust, identity, and empathy. And so when you're building a marriage, you need to have trust, identity, and empathy. If you go to the Google and Apple App Store, our app is called Marriage Mentors Rich RR. There is an emotional intelligence test on there. An emotional intelligence test is a really good way to kind of get a gauge of where your empathy is, to help you to get a gauge of where you are. And so it's just important that we are mindful of everything that's going on in your own self. Because if we're not mindful of what's going on inside of us, then how are we going to be mindful of what's going on inside the other person? We've had a lot of questions in our community, a lot of people who are commenting and who are subscribing and who are sharing. And we just want to tell you, we read every single...
It takes a while.
Every comment. And we are, if you have questions that you have about marriage relationships that basically you don't feel comfortable asking in this setting, feel free to send us an email, help@richrelationshiprefuge.com, because we want us to continue to grow. We had a lot of couples who've been married for 30 years, who've been married for 10 years, 29 years, and a lot of couples who are saying it's so good to see a couple sharing lasting love. And that is what we're here for. We're not here because we have a perfect marriage or because we're perfect or because we have all the answers.
Right.
We're here because we really want to help people have an understanding of what it looks like on a day-to-day basis to build a lasting marriage.
And Mike, to answer your question, we've been married 36 years. We just celebrated 36 years in December. And so, but we dated for 3 years before we actually got married. We were in that season of getting to know each other, that courting time, that getting to know each other and knowing if we should be partnered in together with this thing called life. So that is one of the things that we talk about that is so important when you're going through the dating phase. That is the time for you to say, you know what, guys, this is what I want from Renee and this is what she needs from me. And when we say we talked about everything, we talked about as much as we possibly could at such, yeah, exactly. To be able to come together and say, you know what, this is someone that I really want to be with for the long term. Yeah. Unfortunately, so many people have experienced, we've been working with couples for over 20 years. So many people we've seen have gone through some bad experiences and gone through some bad times in relationships, and it makes them salty on relationships.
Yeah, it does. Thank you, Erica. We appreciate you. Yeah. Yes.
And Angela, 45, congratulations.
Yay!
While it may make you a little salty on relationships, know that the things that we're sharing with you are the things that we're trying to sow good seed and good soil to kind of change that narrative that you may have about relationships, to say, you know what? There is people out there doing it the right way and enjoy each other's company and in love with each other. And even though they've been together for a while, it's not boring. No. It doesn't get old. Yeah. I don't get tired of the same person. Hopefully she don't get tired of me.
I love him.
But the difference is, there's a difference between people who work at it and the people who don't.
Yeah.
The people who are struggling and having difficulty, they probably aren't doing it right.
Yeah. And like somebody said, these people here be tripping.
Yeah, we do.
You know, no, not us.
Oh.
In the comments. There are people in the comments, and I will say,
my heart goes out.
I'm sorry for your pain.
Yeah.
You know, and for those of you who leave positive comments and who are sharing, that's a reflection of you. What you put in the comments is about you, and so I love that we get to come on here and share our life and share our ups and our downs and all the things that we're going through, because so many times what we see in media is not reality, and so we're trying to change that narrative and do it. Does that mean we're gonna have to take some bullets and take some crazy comments? We okay. We from Detroit. We built for
What up,
tough.
though?
It don't hurt our feelings. And so I know sometimes you guys, those of you who love us, I know it makes you mad when people put stuff in the comments that's stupid.
Nonsense.
But that's on them. For those of you who leave all your positive comments, your questions, your feedback, saying that it's helping you, this is for you.
Yes.
We're doing this for you, for Liz and
Erica.
Raheem,
thank you, Jim.
and Erica and Jimmy.
What's up?
Jimmy, man, we love you, bruh.
That's a dedicated brother right
that
there.
brother right there be all in the comments, in the videos, and let me ask you a question. So those of you who join us on Saturday, you guys know we have this long the long video, but most people watch our shorts. So how do we get the people who watch the shorts to watch the longs, y'all? Because I'm sure y'all may not watch the shorts.
Yes, we do have misunderstandings and fight about
Anita, is that Amilla?
You know what? When it comes to the silly things and the small things, over time, you start realizing what's really important and what's really not.
You do.
One thing that you start focusing on is the things that really matter in the relationship. Because I don't do something or I said something the wrong way, Renee is going to credit me with the positive first. Even if I don't do something or don't say something the right way, she knows over the time and over the history, you have to look at the history of the person that you're with. What does the pattern say about this person? I could be just having a bad day. I could be tired. I could be not feeling well. Whatever the case may be.
Sleepy, hungry, angry, lost.
Yeah. All those different things. And it comes down to giving Renee the empathy and the understanding and the benefit of the doubt that all the things that we kind of talked about over the last couple of weeks, even in today.
That's right, Erica. Pick and choose who you give your energy to.
Yes.
You got to pick your battles. And when it comes to disagreements, Gil and I are the total opposite. I'm an extrovert. He's an introvert. I'm a talker. He's a listener. You got to decide what's really important in the big scheme of things right now. And I was getting kind of sad. There's so much stuff that's going on in the world. Children losing their lives, children giving up their lives.
All the devastation.
When you think about all the things that are going on, the fires in California, the things that's going on in our government, there's so much to be angry, upset, and sad about. Why not find some place that can be your happy place? And why not let that be the person that you decide to spend the rest of your life with?
Right.
Let's see, Amila.
Some couples didn't accept their defeat in the fight and they ended up hurting each other.
Yes.
One thing I can say about that, Anita, is that Anita? Alita? Well, I kind of spoke about that a little bit at the very beginning about when you're the product of divorce, it hurts the kids or even the relationship if you're not married. The kids are the ones that end up being the collateral damage. You're the casualty. Yeah, and I think if parents start thinking about that at the very beginning, don't fight in front of the kids.
No.
If you got things and issues that you need to work out, do that in private because they see and hear and absorb everything.
They do.
And that's unfortunately can be a childhood trauma that they have to live through, especially when you're a child of divorce. You see that. We talk about it in one of the other videos about talking about some of our own past and pains that it can do damage in your present day relationships because you're still reliving some of the events that you haven't unresolved. Even though you weren't the source of it, you were the collateral damage to it. So one thing that you have to really focus on is doing something new, getting new information, getting new things and new ways of thinking about
tools.
Giving the hurt over to the Lord because that's where the only way the source can really sustain and repair and restore the things that have damaged us in this thing called life. So we appreciate you.
Yeah, because we don't always agree. But when our daughter and my sisters were little, we didn't argue in front of them.
No.
Because a part of it, kids will divide and conquer. So if they can see you arguing, then they decide they're going to interject. So if we have a disagreement, and if I have a problem with Gil, I'm telling Gil.
Right.
I'm not telling my girlfriends. I'm not telling my mother. I'm not telling. So you have to set up some safeguards for your marriage to protect it. And one of them is that we disagree with each other, just the two of us.
Yes.
So
if you got other questions that you want to put in there, by all means, or even comments, not just a question, but if you got a comment, a positive comment, that's something in reference to what we talked about today, as we coming up on the end,
Tie, trust,
identity,
identity,
and
and
empathy.
empathy. Which is the framework of your marriage, which is in the book. Our marital code of one that you can get this book at Barnes and Noble or Barnes and Noble online. We will have our first book signing this year for our marital code of one in San Antonio at the Barnes and Noble in Alamo Ranch. So we're setting them up throughout the city, throughout the country. But that's our first one for this year, which will be in March. And so if you don't have this book, please go to your local Barnes and Noble and purchase it. They can order it for you, or you can go online. I'd rather you go into the store. All of y'all go into the store and say, I need to have the marital code to oneness. They'll carry it in your store.
Yes, Jimmy. Yes, I will let you know when I start doing some videos that are just men focused.
Oh, and you know what? Let me tell you, Jimmy.
Oh, Lord.
The Lord just told us that today,
this morning.
Today. And so we're going to come up with some little shorts, and it's going to be like, of course I'm a wife. And Gil's going to be, of course I'm a husband. So yeah. Jimmy, you in the spirit, bro.
Yeah, so we'll do a little bit more longer content, even in this, because I would like interaction from my bros, my men folks out there that actually want to focus on their relationship, which is a rarity. I hate to say it, but it is. The women, they were out there and try to get better at it. Us guys, we'll try to do it on the down low. But here, Alita was asking, can you guys let us know, at the beginning of our marriage, how could you guys get an understanding of each other?
To have a better understanding of myself. I think that, I know that sounds cliche, but the better I really got to know myself, the better I was able to understand Gil. Because if I know that I'm insecure and I'm, an extrovert, if I start understanding myself and I start seeing that in him, I'm like, hey, you know what? I need to learn some of that. We start to realize that my growth areas were his strengths, and his strengths for my work growth area. I'm like, man, together, we got this thing figured out.
And one thing that that helped me was, and I had to really understand that sometimes in order for Renee to know what's going on with me and to understand me, I have to talk more. Us guys, we naturally, well, I won't say naturally, I'm generalizing. A lot of guys are just introverted. We're not taught to talk about our feelings and our emotions and the things that and our aspirations and all these things, because it is seen as weak. So, but one thing that Renee is, and I said this in past videos, that has definitely helped me with, is tapping into and understanding the emotions that I feel when I feel them. Because it's two emotions that guys, we have down pat: lust and anger. We feel those without nobody teaching us and knowing, we know the difference. But Renee was actually able to help me understand some of the other things, but I had to start communicating to her to give her the understanding of what was going on in me and in here in order to be able to articulate that to her, to where I was able to understand where she was coming from, and she was able to understand where I was coming from. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, what is Jimmy saying? Oh, we appreciate you too. I mean, we are so grateful. You guys are all such a blessing, and you may not think that your comments mean anything.
They do.
But they do. And they encourage us, and they help us to have a sense of direction. They help us to have a sense of, okay, Lord.
And what we like to do with these videos is not just tell you guys teachings and little things like that. We're using this. We always talk about self-inventory. Check yourself. You don't want your spouse or your significant other to check you. So who is checking you? You need to check yourself and say, how am I doing in this? Use this as nothing more than a gauge of saying, how is my transparency? How is my reliability, my understanding? And am I really being sincere? And how is my time when it comes to, am I building the trust in my significant other and in my relationship that is going to pay the dividends that I hope it pays when we need them most, when we're going through those challenging times that can be very detrimental to our relationship development.
Alita says that, what is it when the person always thinks that I'm correct? Well, you don't want to be in a relationship thinking about what the other person is thinking.
Yes.
It's your responsibility to make sure that you know that you are wrong. And so if you're trying to figure out that they think that they're always right, that's still you thinking about them.
Right.
All I can do is think about me and think about what I need to do different. And I think sometimes we don't realize is, someone said, guard your energy, guard your headspace.
Oh, yeah.
There's only 24 hours in a day, and the only kind of control God is going to give me is self-control. So when I find myself focusing on Gil, I redirect it back to me to say, no, this is me. This is a me problem. What do I need to do different? If you know because I was talking to a guy, I was in Detroit, I was at the barbershop, and this guy heard me say I was a marriage coach. He said, can I talk to you? I said, sure. He said, I don't want to talk about my wife, but she don't clean up.
Well, you clean up.
And so I said, but I thought you said you didn't want to talk about your wife. If there's something that she's doing that you need her to do different, then why don't you lead by doing it?
Or communicate what you need.
But first lead. I think that we talk too much. If you start doing it, that could cause them to do it. Because I think that our actions, the Bible says we win our spouses by our conduct in our conversation. So it's my behavior and my words. It's not just me, yeah, 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 yeah.
And especially with your leader, what you just said there, that is the definition of empathy.
Yeah.
People should also view things from other people's perspective.
Yes.
When you are doing that, that is leading with empathy. And when you're not doing it, you're leading with self.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
We appreciate you guys hanging out with us on this Saturday. You know, it's coming up on the end. So we just appreciate you guys. We appreciate all the comments. We appreciate the people hanging out and listen to us go on and on and on. And hopefully we giving you something that you can deposit.
Take away and walk in.
Yeah, we want to make depositors. As we always say, we appreciate you for sticking us in your ears and with your eyeballs, that we can hopefully sow some seeds into your relationship that will bloom up into something that is a beautiful relationship that we are experiencing, that we just want to share with you guys.
Because it would be easy for us to just live our best life and not do any of this stuff, but we realize what good is what you have if you're not leaving a legacy.
So we appreciate you. What's going on, Paul? Thank you for hanging out with us for this last few minutes. Thank you.
And you guys can always, after the video is up, and you can always go back and watch it again. We have over 2,000 videos on YouTube. If there's a topic that you're questioning or curious about, go look at our long videos. I'm sure we have a long episode. Our podcast, we've been really focusing on that. This is our focus this year. YouTube, our podcast, our blog.
And our church ministry.
And our church ministry. Marriage, it's still marriage ministry.
Yeah.
And so we're not focusing on a lot of social media platforms with the exception of YouTube. It's our primary platform. If you want hot bread, it is on YouTube. What is relevant and new and what's going on with us, wherever we're at, what's going on, we're going to always share with our community first, and that's all of you. We love you, Rich family.
Just like sticking y'all hanging out with us in Richie. So we appreciate that's our RV. So we seen it earlier where people are like, where are y'all at? This ain't y'all normal setting.
It's Richie.
We're in Richie in the RV outside our church right now. Yeah. So we appreciate you guys hanging out with us for this Saturday, and we will be back next Saturday at 12 noon.
And I always post what the episode will be about on Fridays.
Go check out the long content, y'all. Yeah. If you got to binge something, binge that for a minute. Yeah. Help us with our long content, getting our watch hours up.
Yes.
So we can help more people like y'all.
Yes. And we love you and we appreciate you. I pray that not only would you guys be hearers, but you would be doers. And that if you were losing hope in what marriage was, that you come here and get like a transfusion of hope.
A transfusion
of hope, inspiration, love, and know that we love you and we care about you and we're praying for you. And we're going to keep doing this until Jesus comes.
And we'll see you guys next
Saturday at 12 noon.
Have a great weekend.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for your comments, your time, and just being you. Thank you.
See y'all.